Welcome back to the Passing Show and Harrowings Live with Hal Gill, your host. I am on right now just watching the ongoing work around the corner here at S and Florida Avenues, and 21st Street intersects here as well. Connecticut Avenue makes a close pass. Let me go on around the construction you see in the area. See the Groove and the Truth have joined. Good to have you with us. Always good to have the Groove and the Truth with us. You never know who and what you might see on the Passing Show. You can see there's a lot of work going on in the neighborhood. Some vines being removed, I guess, from overgrowing some of our buildings. And one of my neighbors coming back in. I don't know who they is, but they live in the same building that I inhabit the bunker under. I like being down there at the English basement level this side and below the grade of the alley behind me. Feels quite enclosed, safe. El Dorado, Pirates. Good to see that cruise by. We'll wait for the traffic a little bit. Do a little walking around the neighborhood again, taking in the Passing Show as it goes. I think my friend's record store will be open till 4 or later. Can't go by there really, make time, but I'll watch the traffic along here. And as I said, you never know, you might see in the Passing Show who, what, when, and where. Wide range of different possibilities expand around us. I was planning to be in one of the art museums today and down on the mall and taking that in, but couldn't really do it. Kind of stuck with this instead. See, Mickey has joined. Good to have you with us, Mickey. I think you're out in Arizona, right? Feel free to chat back. There's Jim. Never know who you might see on the Passing Show. Hey, Jim. All right, how about you? Still another day in the bonus round for Jim and me. We've been knowing each other for many years in the neighborhood. Not too well, but enough. Enough to acknowledge each other's presence as we go along, trying to make our way from dawn to dusk and back again. Find the book titles amusing here. Thomas A. Harris, MD, wrote, I'm okay, you're okay. Transactional analysis breakthrough that's changing the consciousness and behavior of people who never before felt okay about themselves. How about that? Bob Woodward is also there as an author. Texas Hold'em, Encounter the Enlightened. Many titles out there for us to peruse. Aldous Huxley's The Brave New World was one of them. Noticed this morning as I was making my way down for my breakfast. After hanging with a few dozen of us, talking a little bit about the fourth tradition of Alcoholics Anonymous. Is what it is. Lots to learn out there. Many things I've shored against my ruins, as I was commenting the other day. Riffing off of The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. These fragments I've shored against my ruins. There's a quote used as a senior quote by my friend Scott Simon, not the NPR personality, but a different Scott Simon. Hopefully, he's doing well out there in the world somewhere in his 60s, as I am. We have had the past 30 plus years since our 40 plus, since our college days. In fact, it's 40 years right now since I graduated from college at Randolph Macon. Hard to believe. Back on that degree of nostalgia, and if I can look back at it with definitely gratitude and slight repentance for opportunity not well, I did as well with it as I could. What I knew at the time, which was nothing, young and green as we are in those days. Taking in the reflections, wearing my Ain't No Time to Hate shirt today at the Rex Foundation fundraiser from 2021, I think. 2020. It's in December of the pandemic. I contracted COVID, actually, I believe, at the fall fun run of Dead and Company, mixed in with all those people from all over the world, enjoying the music and commingling the virus. I expect because I came up with ground glass opacities in my right lung, which is my good one, and elevated levels of D-dimer, which are unaccountable. Time I was in with my physician, and he checked everything he could, but didn't come up with anything. But it was COVID symptoms that I was having, and luckily I did not die. My infection may have spread around a bit until I'm going to go this way. A little road less traveled stuff. I like to do this every so often. Housekeeping's in right now, doing its rounds. I can go back into the house later. Maybe lie down for a while after they're out. For now, I'm just walking along and taking in the passing show. So, do we have anybody weighing in yet? Groove of the Truth, Mickey, Libra. All right. Not very many joining, but that's fine. Purpose of the passing show is just to get a little who, what, when, and where, little perspective on my own life and its passage from dawn to dusk and back again. We're all making that journey. We're all weaving history. And this is a product I'm laying down as potential primary documentation for historians of the future. Plucked that just now. Changes everything just slightly. That's the thing about, changing the past. That is the immediate past. When we think about time travel and going back and changing something in the past, will have ripple effects that go out into the future. We can't predict what those are. We're doing that right now, making little ripple effects that influence everything. The way that wasp flew off of the surface of that tree, I just happened to notice, probably didn't fall into the lens, but it happened to everything else. That was a reaction, perhaps, to my presence there. The way in which its wings beat and moved little molecules of air, just slightly. And look at that. People, different stages in life, every step of their life, every choice they made leading them to where they are physically now, looking around, wondering, how did I get here? Where am I going? And not really knowing for certain. But going there anyway. I almost walked up that alley because I could. And I didn't, because I didn't know where it led. There are always roads to travel. Always vistas to take in. Certainly the Phillips collection is a great place to take in vistas and evidence of other people's travels. You can visit there by going to phillipscollection.org. Reserve tickets if you wish. But if you don't have to. You never know who you might see on the passing show. Walking now past the Phillips collection's southern end. Now I'm going to cross in front of the Embassy of India. Some work going on over by Mahatma Gandhi's bronze statue. We're across the street from the Museum of the Cincinnati. Those officers who served with Washington during the Revolutionary War. 250 revolutionary stories. The American Revolution Institute of the Society of the Cincinnati is celebrating. Some gentlemen going up to the Cosmos Club. Cosmos Club, long-standing institution in the neighborhood. Distinguished visitors abound. Lovely architecture on these Beaux-Arts buildings. Some jet going up out of National Airport. Elsewhere bound. Everybody's weaving history. Kia Forte made a decent mode of transportation, brought a friend into the Cosmos Club. And we know a little bit about that now. These benches in the park right around the corner from my house. I'm just killing time walking around here, going from dawn to dusk and back again. Different possible paths lay open to me. Not sure which one I'm going to take. Ah, well, debatable. I guess I'll take this one. It's the one that opened up in front of me. Florida Avenue traffic stopped, Massachusetts Avenue traffic being let through. I'm going to let myself go up 22nd Street, which stretches off behind me as well. Goes up to the Spanish Steps. Again, my neighborhood. We get a little bit of the passing show, a little bit of the architecture of the neighborhood as well. This building, a handsome edifice, it's actually gutted by fire years ago, but it's been since redone. Many different condos make up its various floors. Across the street is the Embassy of Estonia. As we move on up, we have other embassies. Bulgaria, flying the flag of the European Union and the Ukraine. What's this one? I forget what this is. Somalia. It's the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Somalia. TJH. Mercedes is the Somalian ambassador's car. Here we have a monument to a Bulgarian patriot who lived 1837 to 1873. And the Embassy of Bulgaria. Eurovision 2027 being advertised. Then we got ongoing work happening at R and 22nd. Closing off the sidewalk as they do those repairs. Presumably, Brazilian Air Force has this building. Aeronautica Commission. Across the street, some residences. Some here too, adjacent to embassies. Some bearing a historic marker. Some bees. And here's the Dominican Republic's embassy. Helicopter going over. Police, presumably. Whew. I'll walk this way and back up. Get a little more of who, what, when, and where. On Decatur Place. This goes along behind S Street Northwest. The ocean properties, screened by bamboo there. This place, 2200. Got his patriotic bunting out. Never know what you might see on the passing show. Just little vignettes as we pass along from dawn to dusk and back again. Nice and warm out here today, I tell you what. It's non-trivial. Some dogs being walked up ahead. I'll probably cross paths with them before anybody else. Little flowers here and there. Good reminder of what DNA can do. What human beings can do in terms of colors, brightness of the paint job there. Another day in the bonus round, folks. Here, folks up there. One of those is the embassy in Myanmar. I'm not sure which. The other is Jeff Bezos' double mansion. Let me come up on the backside of that, I think, just shortly. from here. You go right behind Myanmar's embassy now. Oh, I don't know. That could be the top of Jeff's. Hard to tell. One of these is the back of Woodrow Wilson House, where he was living with his wife until just before his demise, an interment on National Cathedral's grounds. It's the first of our presidents to be interred there. I think maybe others have been since, but no, Woodrow Wilson was the first to be interred there. His attempts, of course, to get the League of Nations off the ground fell short. We have the United Nations today, such as they are, and such as our little bird friends here are oblivious to them. Not oblivious to me, though, as I pass along. Definitely paying attention to that. I'll head back over to the house soon and cut the passing show. This building was an embassy building, but has been let go. I don't know whose it was off the top of my head, but it is no longer being maintained. Across the street, this is being maintained, though. Residences. Windle Mansions, it's called. That's right. 2339. Decatur Place. We're going to make our turn up by the Croatian Embassy. Whenever I pass here, I think of my old friend Derzislav of Croatia. He and I were at Goethe Institute together in Prinam Kiemse in 1994. We witnessed the genocide happening in Rwanda then. We had conversations about Croatian independence. Croatian sculpture died in 1962, made this one. Standing outside. And I've lost touch with Derzislav. I think he was in Canada last I noticed. I'll have to look him up someday. Here we have the embassy of Cameroon, Chad across the way. I can cross here. I may as well. Continue up along Massachusetts Avenue, a spell. There's the embassy of the Netherlands ambassador's residence on the corner of 24th and S Street, Northwest, on the northeast corner, to be precise. A monument to Robert Emmet, the Irish patriot, 1778 to 1803, his lifespan. But he's not forgotten here at Rock Creek Park. Across from the embassy of the Ivory Coast, run by some other embassies on our little walk around the neighborhood. Have good weather for it. It's cool, not particularly humid. Sufficient humidity, perhaps. It's a sycamore tree, though. Alleyway going up behind some of the houses. Front 24th Street. I think I'll go up that way. little road less traveled stuff. The Chadian embassy's cars. Actually, if I remember right, I can't get through this way, can I? I'm gonna give it a try. Running along behind the buildings on 24th Street. One of them used to be the home of a chap I knew only peripherally. I'm trying to remember his name now. It's not coming back to me. Maybe it will in time. His widow was a teacher of Russian at Georgetown. Somebody used to be part of my circles. Definitely is what it is. He'll make it through on this side. Doesn't look like that side leads anywhere. Maybe between some buildings. This is the back of the embassy of Slovenia. I'm coming up on now. In one of the Slovenian embassy's cars. I can't get through this way, can I? No, not through that way. Let's try this way. I might have to just go back out the way I came. Looks like I might be able to get between these buildings here. I am not sure. I'm not certain. DQD 0115. Yes, not so sure. Looks like I can just walk along in here. See things. Can't really get anywhere now. Fences. How to right between here. JS. I'm not sure whose embassy that was. Zambia, maybe? Looks like I can just squeeze through the driveway here. Barely. So they actually blocked it pretty effectively to foot traffic. Good enough. And take a hint. Turn around, go back the way you came. But I do like looking at the backs of things. Always amuses me. As long as I don't get into terrible trouble for it. I don't know what this monument's for. Looks like it's somebody's memorial. Somebody interred there. Can't really tell, but it's a beautiful monument. Standing all by itself behind a stone wall from the shielded from most onlookers, unless they wander back here. Go ahead and take a few more looks at that over my shoulder. There it is again. And out of view. Yeah. My friend Jack, that was his name, lived there with Ludmilla, his wife. And he passed away a few years back. Been something of a fixture in the neighborhood. See some faces inside there. At this embassy, I think that's Zambia, but I forget. Let's take a look. You say they're open. Not much for now. That's Chad. Know that. Massachusetts Avenue and S Street, Northwest. Ivory Coast. There's a monument to an elephant. There. Vestibule. Now remember this one being reconfigured not too terribly long ago. Here is the Embassy of Zambia. And across the street, the Embassy of Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. Which I could be. In Zambia again. There's a little garden with the monument in it. There's the monument. Tree has fallen fairly recently, but it's coming back up from the root. It's like an elm. There's another standing near it. Large American holly. It's a Titanic one, if that's what it is. No, it's not. It's an oak. It's covered partially by a holly. Growing alongside it, I can't really tell. Interesting. Bruno Batati is joined. Hey, Bruno. How you doing? What's new? Feel like going live? On the walk? You never know who you might see as we pass between dawn and dusk and back again. This one has been recently refurbished, I believe. I think it was the Embassy of Venezuela. Could it be that it is being reopened? It's got a diplomatic car in front. I'll just double check and see if I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing. Yeah, it's the Republic Venezuela. Been a long time since we've had a real embassy at any of the Venezuelan properties. 2500 Massachusetts Avenue across the way. Very close to the entrance to the Japanese embassy. Everyday Junglist is joined too. I have to go backwards to go through Sheridan Circle. If I can walk through that, walk to it. Okay. And by the way, I can invite you guys too, I think. I'll figure out how to do that. And yeah, you're both invited. Everyday Junglist and Bruno, if you want to do a little pre-planning for Thursday. I haven't scheduled it. Am I supposed to schedule it? You got to tell me. So you've both been invited. You gonna come on? Come on. Spark this up a little bit. I've just been walking around killing time while housekeeping is in. Hey, Everyday Junglist is here. I can't hear you. All right, turn you up. Okay, say something. Say something intelligent. Or tell me something that's nonsense. I see you've joined, but can you hear me? You'll have to. You're not on video. I can just see that you've joined. And if you're saying words, I can't hear them. No camera, no audio either. Not that I can tell. I'm not going to remove you. I'll give you time. Yeah. It said tap here to remove guest. I'm like, no, I don't want to remove him. See if we can get Bruno to come in. He's got his invite, and I'm doing what he asked me to do. Walking down to Sheridan Circle. I just had to reverse course, cruising by. What is this? I think this is Mexico, isn't it? Looks like a little southwest tone to the.
Oh,
Hey, I got you. Can't get Dan again. Can you hear me? Nod your head if you can.
that needs a technological upgrade.
Yeah, he needs a technological upgrade, but I'm coming through, right? Even with the traffic noise.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you well.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking at the Mexican embassy across the street right now. I'm going to cross the street when I can, and we'll go down Sheridan Circle as you have asked, because I'm so flexible. I was going to walk up that way and just cut over on California Street past the Slovenian embassy. Lynn and I have been in there once when they had embassy open houses. Then I had to report it that I'd had contact with foreign nationals, been foreign soil. Kind of ridiculous when you live in my neighborhood. You're on foreign soil just about all the time. So, you seen anything interesting?
Yeah, yeah, I saw
Here.
you walking. I saw you walking around the embassies and was wondering if you could go to Sheridan Circle, which is where the Chilean embassy is located.
And that's actually where I'm going, but the Chilean embassy? Okay, I know where that is. Yeah, that's on the other side of the street. Here's the embassy of the Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. This elephant. And across the way, the embassy of Chad. We were talking about that earlier. Got
Are
a,
they located in alphabetical order? Cote d'Ivoire, Chad.
not at all.
So the
No,
next one is
they are not.
Chile.
It's completely random.
Uh,
Cameroon is across the way there. That's that sort of chateau-like structure on the corner of 24th and Massachusetts Avenues. And this little park, this little triangle park, has a statue of Robert Emmet, the Irish poet. So there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. The Republic of Malawi is here. So if I just go up here, I'll be in Malawi. And if I jump back over, I'll be back in the United States again. There's their consular section. They require face masks. Next door is the building. Oh, I can't read it. Oh, here it is. Embassy of the United Arab Emirates Education Affairs Office. So there you go. The Emirates. There's Cameroon, a little bit of better picture of Cameroon's embassy. They recently redid that whole thing. I don't know how they got the money. Croatia's next door. I was talking about that. And we're not far from Chile now. It's on the other side of the street, though. I'm going to have to cross the street to be right by it. This seems like a good enough place. Let's see if I can get the walk sign to come on. Okay, it's down there. It tells me to wait to cross. This is the South Korean building. Anyway, they're having a exhibit embracing color Hanji on November 20th of 2026. Come see that sometime. Oops, I can get across here. Just barely. Watch these oncoming traffic. But I skated. Here's Embassy of Croatia. I was talking about this because of my friend Jerzislav Skeljo was from Croatia. We hung out a lot in Germany in 1994. There's St. Jerome. I know how he feels, you know. Don't you, Bruno?
how do you feel? What do you mean? How do you feel about what?
Look at his expression. Head in
Uh,
hand.
you
Can't
mean
believe what he's reading. He's studying, actually. He's in deep study. Okay, coming up on Chile, eventually. There's a
You know
lot of
why?
other things
You
to
know
see.
why I'm curious about Chile?
Why?
Because in front of the embassy there is a rotonda, a roundabout,
Yeah, that's the circle,
and in the roundabout, in September 21st, 1976, our
right?
former Foreign Office head Orlando Letelier was killed with a car bomb,
Yes, I'm aware.
which, as far as I know, has been the only terrorist attack in Washington D.C.
Proper, yeah. If you think of Pentagon is over the line in Virginia, yeah.
So you know the death, the murder of Orlando Letelier. He used to be the Foreign Office head for Allende. So when he was killed, he was in exile, and he was coordinating all the efforts of the exiles against Pinochet. And the crime was finally sorted out as a coordination between Pinochet secret police and the CIA. And so since the CIA got involved, um, the Chilean government, the Chilean dictatorship, quickly wrote down an amnesty law to, clear out any kind of criminal activities from the dictatorship. But the Americans, particularly Senator Ted Kennedy, said that the case of Orlando Letelier had to be left out of the amnesty, and so we wrote an amnesty law which had this little exception, which was this case, this car bomb that happened in yeah, there's Orlando, exactly. That's the bust of Orlando. A very, very intelligent man, a wise intellectual, and a very good guitar player and singer also. And so eventually, the killers of Orlando were finally sentenced to justice after the end of the dictatorship around 2003, 2004. And this was one of the first big international and legal hits against Pinochet. It sort of began the downfall of Pinochet as a figure. So,
Right. And I'm looking right now at that monument, and it is saying it was put here by the government of Chile, his family, friends, and colleagues in
yes,
Washington, D.C. in February 2018. So it's a fairly recent addition to the embassy itself. And you see the embassy, and you see
there's
the embassy's one of their cars. This is not the ambassador's car, but it's a good one. They
there,
don't
there
make a
is
lot of those. It's
there
a
is an
Bentley, I believe.
there is another reason why Orlando is important, and I guess, do you happen to know Canadian journalist Naomi Klein?
Not Naomi. Who?
Naomi Klein.
Not getting the last name. Sorry. Too
Naomi
noisy out here.
Klein. Naomi Klein.
Klein. Klein. Got it.
Do you know
Yep.
her?
I've heard of her. I've heard of her.
Yeah, no,
I
no,
have not read her close.
Naomi Klein is she's alive. She's a young lady, and she's a very, very good
Right.
journalist. And she's written 3 or 4 excellent books. And her first book was No Logo, and her second book was called The Shock Doctrine. And the shock doctrine is her theory about how neoliberal governments impose neoliberal economical orders, taking advantage of some kind of shock. Okay, be it a natural shock, or be it a war, or be it a natural disaster, or be it a pandemic. Basically, she thinks that she states on this book that whenever there is a crisis, a natural crisis, an environmental crisis, or a war crisis, this is a very good moment to go in and install a neoliberal kind of government, which is, for example, what explains the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, but it also explains the intervention of the U.S. in Chile, and it also explains the intervention of the U.S. in Iran in 1953. And what I like about the book is that in the book where she develops this theory, which is very well developed, she considers that the first person who realized that Americans were using the shock doctrine is Orlando Letelier. Orlando Letelier was the first guy that realized that there was a plan behind every time America was trying to help slash intervene. This is why Orlando is such an interesting figure in world politics. An underdog.
There are a lot of them. And monuments exist to all kinds of statespeople around here. I'm glad there was a monument to him for us to talk to. And this is about the spot that that car bomb went off. I'm on the circle now. You can see the monument to Sheridan there. They haven't torn that one down yet, even though he was responsible for massive amounts of Native Americans being slaughtered. Um, is what it is, right? History is bunk, according to Henry Ford. Here's the ambassador to Turkey's residence and a monument to Kemal Ataturk. And then
At-
what was
Atatürk, yeah, Atatürk, the founder of the Turkish Republic.
exactly, he's standing right there. I don't know if you can see him very easily. He's kind of dark against the dark foliage. Peace at home, peace in the world, it says around him, which is a nice thought. There's some pretty horrific scenes around this area of conflict between Turkish security forces and Turkish protesters fairly recently. Anyhow, there's Sheridan again, a better angle on him. And we'll come all around the circle and head home. I'm just up that street from here, so it's not very far. But I like to take in the passing show out here because all these different currents are around us all the time. Here's the Greek embassy, for instance. They're doing some work on it, as you can see.
Yeah, your camera for some reason is going from low res to high res to low res to high res. I don't know why.
I don't see it on my end, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Can't
now
tell you why.
it's probably because you have low 4G, but it now it looks very low
Showing
resolution.
showing 5G on my end. This I'm looking at now is the American Society of International Law. Looks almost abandoned, as you might think. International law having been abandoned. And the Embassy of South Vietnam, or Vietnam, I shouldn't say South, because Vietnam generally is just down the way. We also have the Embassy of Lesotho there, and I forget what else. So many different things to see around here. But I'm just killing time while housekeeping's in. Otherwise, I'd be in the house taking a nap. So I'm so glad to join us. Oh, we lost Everyday Junglist. I guess I'd have to re-invite him if he wants to come on. See if I can find him. Did he say anything? I see other
No,
people saying stuff. Nate, the blind stonecutter's with us. Do you see those comments? Everyday Junglist. Let's invite him to join again. Anyway, our planning is on simulation, I think, right? That was where we were going, but you had some
yeah,
other ideas.
we're going for simulation this time, and next time we're going for manifestation. Actually, Nate, the jeweler that proposed manifestation, is online. So I told you that in 2 more weeks we go with her subject matter.
Okay. What's the subject matter they have in mind? I missed
Say,
it.
say that again.
What subject matter did they have in mind? I'm sorry.
Everyday Junglis is the church of simulation, and that we're living in a simulation. And Nate is manifestation, which is
Oh, right.
when you summon or call something that maybe you don't want, but it will show up.
Right, right. That was a good one. Got to be careful what you ask for. Law of unintended consequences. So I'm outside the ambassador's place for Egypt. They need to do some upkeep to their grounds. I tell you, it's looking a little scrubby. But then again, I don't know if we have good relations with Egypt right now. I don't know what our relation is with anybody anymore. Ah, back to Chile for a moment. There's your embassy and the monument to Orlando. How do you pronounce his last name? Letelier? Letelier?
Letelier, Letelier, Orlando Letelier.
There we go. And his monument going by there. This is the Haitian embassy passing now. Now, Haiti has a hell of a history. Man's inhumanity to man, I tell you. That country's been through it. This one is abandoned now. I think it used to belong to Iraq, maybe, and it doesn't any longer, obviously. Beautiful architecture, completely abandoned. And I'm up behind Chef Bezos' place and the former home of Woodrow Wilson when he was out of the presidency.
Do you have
Got some Metropolitan Police coming down.
do you have an opinion about Woodrow Wilson?
Opinion? Well, people judge him by current status of how we judge things. Then he comes up way short. But as a product of his time, he was an interesting man, had a lot of interesting ideas, was influenced by a lot of interesting individuals and thought streams, I would call it, that were going through society during the time. I don't know. I don't like to judge. I like to let history sort of have the last word, and we'll continue participating in it, and we will be judged by the quality of our actions. I don't know about Wilson. What is your opinion
I,
or perspective?
I'm always studying American history because it is so complex and vast. And Woodrow Wilson's a very contradictory character because he's the founder of the League of Nations, which is the precursor to the United Nations. But he
Precisely.
was but he was also very much into the Monroe Doctrine, and therefore he was very much into controlling all of Latin America. So I have mixed
Right.
feelings. I have mixed feelings about him.
Well, there's definitely racism involved, right?
Yes,
The idea that,
I've also heard that he was a little bit of a racist, which is strange,
well,
because
just about everybody was and is at some level in our culture. It's hard to root it out.
yeah,
Even when I was a child, I was born into a world where there were segregated schools. Separate but equal was thought of as a real thing. And
yes.
it's crazy.
I mean, what I find
It's
crazy is
crazy.
that America, the United States is this bastion of freedom and free speech
Right.
and First Amendment, and all men are created equal. And at the same time, America has never really resolved the racism problem. And
Not at all.
the Ku Klux Klan has been invoked 3 times. Trump has invoked it for the third time.
Ah, this is across the way the ambassador of the Netherlands house. The ambassador of Pakistan has this place. Then the ambassador of Mauritania. So that's sort of how it stacks up in this neighborhood. Then we got the President Woodrow Wilson House Museum for his legacy. You can have events there and experiences. It says it's a site of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, woodrowwilsonhouse.org. Oh, bit of a climb to get past it. See, it's been designated a registered national historic landmark since '65, which is right after the death of his wife, who lived until about 65 or so, I believe, and lived here. Um, so we're that close in history. A little free library. This I'm crossing right now the driveway of Jeff Bezos. the founder of Amazon and Blue Origin and owner of the Washington Post. He has both this and the house next door, which is sort of contiguous with it, the former home of the Textile Museum. And this was um, gutted basically and has 25 bathrooms installed into it. I don't know why you need 25, but I guess he felt that was necessary.
This
No
is a
pun intended.
this is a
Sorry.
really nice area, Washington, the embassy area.
Yep.
And
Highly surveilled as well. This is
I,
the ambassador of China's home. He gets my mail because I'm 2103 S Street and he's 2301. So sometimes he gets my mail and he never returns it.
go ask for it.
So I'm at war with China. Though I don't think they're paying any attention to my discomfort with them. This is the embassy of the Republic of Myanmar, formerly Burma, and it was the home of Herbert Hoover when he was Secretary of Commerce.
Herbert Donald Hoover,
Herbert Hoover, yeah, yeah,
Mr.
that was
Mr.
his house.
Mr. Taris.
I don't know. He was instrumental in making sure that Reconstruction happened after World War One. He was put in charge of the logistics.
Well,
So I don't know. He
he's sort of
also was a translator of De Re Metallica by Agricola, which is quite good if you're interested in mining. And he was, of course, interested in mining and all forms of commerce. And he was a friend. So there's a Friends Meeting House down here was built with him in mind, 1930. Ah, Embassy of Laos.
I find
They sold
I
this house, I think.
I
Go ahead.
find so, I find so poetic that you walk around the diplomatic area of Washington D.C.
Yep.
Now that Washington D.C. is anything but diplomatic. Whatever happened with diplomacy?
You know, you're looking at the surface of things, I think. We all are looking at the surface. But the business of Washington continues regardless of who's in power. And it's kind of like the old, Friedrich Dürrenmatt, the playwright?
Yes,
You familiar?
yes.
He wrote one called An Angel Comes to Babylon. As I recall, I wrote a paper on it. And in The Angel Comes to Babylon, this angel arrives, and I forget the details now, but basically he comes upon a situation where Nebuchadnezzar and Nimrod are exchanging positions as being on the throne or being the footstool of the other who is on the throne. Every time one has to get up off the throne, the other one hops onto it and makes the other one be his footstool. Such a perfect description of the dance of Democrat and Republican. I just can't get over it. And Dürrenmatt, of course, wrote this back in the post-war years, World War II. He also wrote Boatin'. Do you know The Pledge? Jack
No,
Nicholson starred in the movie version.
no, I don't. Nevertheless,
Anyways, great play.
nevertheless, I do disagree with you as usual, and I don't think I'm looking at the surface of things. There was a period in which diplomacy ruled, and there was a period in
I
which
think it still does.
the United Nations was a leading nation in the prevention of wars.
Well, that may be true, and it may become true again. I just think it's what we're watching is a stage play, and it's designed to distract us and keep us entertained at some level or another, and keep us divided, definitely. Um, but I don't think necessarily the business of Washington has changed a lot. As in, I think the power brokers are still the power brokers that were, and there will be the power brokers that are when all this nonsense with Trump has gone by. And it will go by. I don't know what it's going to leave in its wake. I
Well,
think
I
that's really up to us. I think we have a responsibility to be the change we want to see in the world, remember? And every cent spent is a vote. So we are co creating this world. We have co-created it up to this point, and we should be held responsible.
Yeah, but
Go ahead, you
I'm
go.
sorry, but you're not. I mean, besides the entertainment, you are not taking into account very specific diplomatic things that have happened. Your government has withdrawn from 60 international organizations, the last two being the World Health Organization,
Right.
and also now prosecuting the International Criminal Court and
Yep.
UNESCO. And the United States has withdrawn from every kind of international institution.
Well, that's exactly why I said international law looks like it's collapsing over there on the external of the building as well as in reality, right? I'm not disagreeing with you, Bruno. I'm sort of on your team with that. I just don't want us to paint with too broad a brush and to say that there is not business as usual happening under the surface of things.
I think the United Nations should move from New York to Ottawa.
Okay, a game for that too. But I bet New York would object. I don't
I
know.
don't, I
Maybe
don't
I'm
think so
wrong.
because as I recently investigated, the building of the United Nations is the property of the city. It's on lease. The United Nations is not the owner of the building, so there's a real estate opportunity.
There you go. Exactly. You might be able to repurpose it for something better. That's happening all around me here. The building my wife's used to be in, the Academy for Educational Development, which was funded largely through USAID. And you know what happened to USAID?
Oh, do I know?
Yeah. Well, long before that, there was some malfeasance in Pakistan and Afghanistan with funds USAID had given to the Academy for Educational Development for some of the projects, as will happen, in Afghanistan and Pakistan during the period. I mean, we're looking at 2010 when this happened, and it wasn't reported in a timely enough manner, so the USAID made an example of them. The building is now, I'm going to cross the street so I can get a shot of it, um, is now being gutted and turned into residences because they couldn't populate it with businesses. The ones that took over the contracts that USAID left in its, or AED, the Academy for Educational Development, left in its wake. After 50 years, this nonprofit was well over 4,000 employees. My wife was their corporate trainer and trying to make sure that everybody knew what they were supposed to do and when they were supposed to do it. And apparently, the executives didn't pay attention because if they had have, maybe the Academy for Educational Development would have persisted longer. However, it's not there anymore. Um, yeah, so I mean, this stuff goes on and on. Oh, here we are by the Embassy of Costa Rica, by the way. Costa Rica, I think, has a really good form of government, from what I've understood. I understand they're one of the least militarized countries available. I don't know.
It's,
It
it's
may
not that
still be true.
it's not that they're the least militarized. It's that President Oscar Arias removed the army. It's the only country that doesn't have an army.
There you go. Well, that's helpful, right? I hope. Here's the Friends Meeting House. You can see the chimney of it anyway. Um, Good to have the friends close by, and go in there and sit with them through the unprogrammed worship, which is nice. There, I'm coming down by the Embassy of Albania, and across the street, there's the Embassy of Moldova from my house. And hopefully, the housekeeping's done by now, and I can go inside and take my nap. But we'll take a look at the construction going on at the what used to be my wife's office. That's why we bought this place, actually, was because it was across the street from her office. And then almost immediately, this stuff manifested that caused her to be among the first 20% to be cut. And her job came to an end in early 2011, early 2011. Yeah, there's my ongoing construction of the corner. They're going to stop just shy of our sidewalk, sadly. These sidewalks obviously could use a little help. I'm outside of the Embassy of Albania, as mentioned. There's the double eagle. And my friend Jack did the interior of this building, actually. He's an architect. Some time ago, he's around sometimes. So just over here where those cranes are, that's the Academy for Educational Development's old building. the Universal building, big squarish thing. All the windows knocked out now. I can see the window that was my wife's office from here. It's three down and three over from the corner of the buildings in front of my house, which include McClellan's Retreat, Embassy of Moldova, 1890s building. I think I'll go up and around the corner. Too noisy over here. And yeah, so a little bit of who, what, when, and where. The Harrowings podcast with Bruno Batati as a special guest. Thank you all who've joined. And Bruno, the microphone is now yours. Tell me more. However much you'd like. I've got time.
I think you know so much about Washington D.C. that you should write sort of a book about the history behind every building and every palace and every construction.
Good
Since
idea.
you know so much about material heritage of Washington D.C.
Yeah,
Uh,
somebody can write a book from my material that I just put out there spontaneously. You
is
see
it
how my mind works.
is it true?
It's
Is it true that Washington D.C. was a piece of land? I mean, the District of Columbia is a piece of land that was given up by Maryland.
Yes, actually, this part was given up by Maryland, and Arlington County, Virginia, was given back to Virginia. But that was part of DC as well initially. It was a big square, 10 miles by 10 miles by 10 miles by 10 miles. And most of it's in Maryland. Most of it was given up by Maryland.
So it
The
was like
rest,
it was like an exchange.
an exchange of what? What did Maryland get for it? I don't know.
And the other piece of land.
Um, well, Maryland didn't get anything out of it. They didn't get extra land. They just
Okay.
had land taken away by
And
the District
and
of Columbia's formation. And
is it
then,
is it true that after the Confederate War, the lands of General Lee were confiscated, and they today
yeah,
are what is Arlington Cemetery?
that's right. The Lee House, the mansion, is there. And in the front of it, in the front yard, is where they started interring the Civil War dead and continue to make it the graveyard for the country, for all the armed services. Yeah, it's been an interesting place to go and visit, but definitely in Virginia's territory now because they gave Arlington back to Virginia from the district. But it's one of our smallest counties, Arlington is. And Arlington House was the name of the house itself that gave the county its name, I guess. I'll have to check that and see if that's true. I think that's true. Might not be.
So
That's one of my problems.
the District of Columbia is such a peculiar piece of land in the States. It's an exceptional piece of land. It's not part of any state. It doesn't have representatives.
Well, that's right. We have our little license plates. I'm watching one go by there. It'll say taxation without representation on it. But not that that's a good thing, that we ought to have representation and we ought to have statehood, is what we've campaigned for. But it's been so far denied to the district by Congress, who basically have control of the district, you know? So the
Right.
congressional body, the legislature, has administrative rights over us, even though we have had a mayor for some time now. Our first mayor, was it Anthony? I've forgotten his last name. And then there was a mayor for life, Marion Barry, who most people remember. And more recently, we had Adrian Fenty, and we've had, for some time, we've had the mayor we presently have. What's her name? I would forget the nature of things. I can see her face in my mind, but I can't actually enunciate her name. But she's actually stepping down, and we're going to have a new mayor. And if we get a female mayor that it looks like will be the right candidate and has won the primary, Trump has said that he'll take over the district again, as the executive has that opportunity when they want to exercise their executive authority and declare a state of emergency. Like, have we elected a communist?
Do you think that's
Oh
going to happen?
no. Well, he'll declare it. So, that's the thing. If you just say things, momentum versus truth. Heard of
Yes,
that?
yes. But
Well,
what would happen in the US if due to some kind of state of emergency, elections would be suspended? What would be the reaction of everyone?
you see those people out there walking up and down the street? Like that woman over there, or the one over here with the umbrella. Any of them, they'll continue to walk up and down the street. That's my prediction. I don't think we care. I don't
Nobody
think
cares.
people are
Nobody cares.
educated
Nobody
enough.
cares.
Well, the problem is, if you are you fat and happy enough? Does your cable still work? You remember Ray Bradbury talking about this guy who went out for a walk and was picked up by an automated police car who asked him, "Don't you have a viewing screen in your home? So why are you out walking around?" And they took him to a mental institution for observation. You
Yeah,
know
you
that
mean
story?
Fahrenheit 451? You mean?
Actually, it's not Fahrenheit 451. It's a short story in the Golden Apples of the Sun collection. And the name of it may be The Pedestrian.
Okay, it's
I
the same.
forgot.
It's the same concept. Like, why would you be walking around?
Right, right. And he may have used that in Fahrenheit 451 too. I don't remember. But the bottom line was you must be crackers if you're out walking around and just taking in the air. Why would you want to do anything like that? Don't you have like nourishment being delivered to your home? And during the pandemic, we got a taste of that, right? I think very much. I think, were you and I talking about the pandemic and its influence just in our recent chat?
No, I don't think so. But we've talked about it before.
Yeah, I thought we were saying something about that in maybe the Sue Cawthorn thing, but I forget. It was somewhere there was a dialogue happening, and some people were talking about this, and just how obviously we can be very different than we are, and we have become very different than we were, and we continue to evolve. That's my thing, and that's why I'm having a conversation with you, Bruno. Is that we are evolving the ability to communicate mind to mind at distance in ways we were doing in the early days of the internet. And I think it's continued, but has it been effective? And how can we be more effective? Here we've got some folks from some military. I think they're Dominican Republic. I just saw some earlier today when I was passing the embassy of the Dominican Republic. So I expect those guys are also part of the Dominican Republic's military. You never know what you're going to see in the passing show,
Yeah, but
right?
isn't there right? I mean, right now in the states now, healthcare is not secured. Food on the table is not secure. The gas prices are going up. I mean, people are not so calm about things being they used to be. That's why I think that the upcoming elections seem to be very important for a lot of people. It's not the case.
Well, that's why I walk around looking at the people and seeing exactly what I'm seeing, which is, well, a lot of work going on right now here at this corner. Then the cars going up and down the street. How conscious are these people and how active are they in shaping the world that they are inhabiting? I don't know. My sense is that we're not very conscious of it. We are sort of asleep at the wheel, and that we're likely to let it just be driven over the edge by handing it over to people like we have handed it over to already. You know what I mean? We've done this to ourselves.
I do know what you mean, but unemployment is on the rise. There's many things that are not exactly calm in the US right now.
Well, we'll see if they get upset enough to do anything effective. My problem is we do these things like the No Kings protest. Peace, I get it. I understand what you're trying to say, but if you really want to be effective, a general strike would help. General strike, you know?
Yes.
Otherwise, shut up and get out of my way. That's what I feel when I see these protesters. If you really want to be effective, every
Yeah, I
cent
agree.
spent is a vote for the kind of world we are co creating. And if we're not willing to inconvenience ourselves, to make ourselves a little bit miserable for a short time, if we're not doing the short term sacrifices, for the long term gain, we ain't going to get the long term gain. We're going to get the long term pain, and we will have brought it on ourselves. We'll have nobody to blame but us.
But if elections are suspended, then there is a high possibility of a general strike as a reaction.
Well, the general strike should have already happened, in my view. That it hasn't happened is basically calling out everybody for bullshit. You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the blame game. Yeah, the blame game.
It's not just a blame game so much. It's just basically saying, to my mind, yeah, I guess, well, I do see what you mean now. Blame game in that if I'm pointing my finger outward
Yeah, that's what
towards
I mean.
other people being the problem, I am not part of the solution.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
they are, if there is some solutioning, I'd like to hear it. I'd really like to hear what the solutions are. And that's one thing I'm looking for from people when I go and put out the passing show. I'm saying, look at this. Are you happy with what you see? If you are, okay. If you're not, what are you doing to be a part of the change? Are you willing to spend mindfully? Are you willing to vote mindfully? The vote's important. And if we do suspend elections or some nonsense like that, I don't believe it can happen. But I haven't believed a lot of things could happen that have happened.
Yes, particularly these last 2 years.
Right. And I mean, the whole thing where Trump, he mocked that reporter who was disabled. Do you remember that one?
Of course.
And everyone does. And that should have ended it right there. And it didn't. And then the grab him by the pussy thing should have ended it right there. It
Yeah, I
didn't.
agree. I was very surprised after those two incidents happened that he would still win the election.
Well, this tells you something about the American psyche or the world's psyche. We don't, we have gotten beyond our ability to be shocked. And I mean, obviously, there's some degree of pretentiousness in this because everybody has, our animal nature. But his animal nature is so far out on the surface. And then people just sort of turning a blind eye to it because they're just overwhelmed by the sheer crassness of it. I think that's what happened for most of us. We were just overwhelmed by the crassness of it. We were flummoxed into being having no response. And then those people who really get off on this kind of thing, they got to the voting polls and they put him in office. And of course, we ignored all of the disgruntlement surrounding the anointed candidate that was put up against him, with the thought that how could she lose? I mean, did you see the run up to the election? The pundits all gave him like the very tiniest chance of winning. 2016, I'm talking about. And then he won.
Yes,
What?
I remember
What?
staying. I remember staying all night watching the election, and I was impressed at how it reverted, slowly but steadily.
It shows you something about our consciousness, about our level of our denial collectively as a species, not just as Americans, but as a species. Because we are one culture on this planet anymore, a monoculture, if you will, since we've been connected by the internet. We have subsumed other cultures. They've been, ground up inside of the Moloch, if you want to go back to Metropolis. You know Metropolis well. So,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were forewarned and we walked right into it.
And now
Like
you can't
lambs,
get out. And now you can't get out of it.
we're like lambs to the slaughter. And those of us who see it can say it, but can we do anything about it? Can we motivate anyone to change and to take note of what we're saying here and actually take action that's meaningful to band together? You know, it's like the Who says, join together with the band. I don't know. I hope so. I hope that we're a nucleus, Bruno. I hope that we join with other nuclei because there's got to be a lot of us and there's a critical mass. So, what you're saying about isn't in the United States this critical mass coming up to the fore and aren't they going to do something? Well, we are them. They are us. Are we going to do something?
I think
So,
you are in the. I think you are in the critical mass, particularly now that the Trump percentage is going under 30%. You know, seven seven seventy
you
percent.
under, I think we underestimate. the base crassness of our primate species. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but me being a European, I don't look at exactly like the American case is. I mean, American exceptionalism is exceptional in so many positive, but also so many negative ways. And
But you're also primates, you Europeans, right?
yeah, but for example,
One species.
yeah, but for example, when at the beginning of 2016, Trump went with that thing about, against the handicapped journalist, or they grabbed them by the pussy,
Right, right.
everyone in the world was shocked. Only the Americans began accepting it. And you also have this problem of Fox News that you can never get rid of, which I find amazing.
Yeah, well, this is the crass nature of the underbelly of the primate species as a whole. It's not just in America, it's also in Europe, it's also in Asia. It's worse in some
Yeah,
places
but
than
you know,
others.
in Europe or in Latin America, we would never have a TV station like Fox. It would be forbidden. Fox is like North Korea.
It would be forbidden. Where's your freedom of the press?
It wouldn't be accepted because there's no journalism. There's no two sources for every case. There is no pluralism.
Ah,
There is no objectivity. There legislation concerning television in the majority of countries has a focus on that, on the fact that you cannot just go on television and say whatever you want to say. And Fox is like a waterfall of personal opinions of the hosts.
yes, I agree with that. And it is
That doesn't.
inter-
Sorry to tell you, but that doesn't happen in any other TV station in Europe. If you watch Polish television or Italian television, it's not like that. It's not like a host can go in and say the first stupid thing that comes to his mind as if it was the truth and make a
for
joke
real.
about it. Fox News is like it's like a comedy. It's like Comedy Central. It's not exactly a news station.
Well, that's where we get most of our news in my household is Comedy Central. We go to Jon Stewart on the Monday that he's in, and
Yeah.
that's where we get our news. It was, for a while I was watching Colbert until his writers got so, I don't know, strident in one direction. And then it became unfun. But then it became real fun when he got banned, or whatever, going to be canceled. So we watched that, and that was nice. The whole home week of all the old guard of people who mocked everything, and we're mockers of everything, but that doesn't get us anywhere. What gets us somewhere is actual positive action that actually is meaningful, like a general strike, as I mentioned, where everybody sits down, refuses to go to work, and then watches everything grind to a halt until the system changes or doesn't, or let it fall in on itself. I'm an anarchist when it comes down to it, in the good way of anarchy, where we are responsible for our own self government. Go ahead. You were saying?
Can you hear me? Damn.
Yeah,
Look,
go
look,
ahead.
look, look what the cat dragged in.
How does it sound? I've got a new microphone set up here,
Is he
completely new.
back?
How does it sound?
Terrible.
It sounds
Does it
good.
sound? Does it
I like it.
okay. Really sounds good.
I
Just make
like it.
sure.
He says it sounds terrible.
Are you joking, Bruno? Are you joking or are you serious?
No, I'm serious. It sounds
Well,
terrible.
now it's terrible. For a second, it was good. Keep trying.
How about now?
Terrible still.
Sounds like
Terrible.
shortwave. Sounds like shortwave station.
Interesting. All right, I'll be back, Valley. All right, later, guys.
Not even.
Sounds like an interception. Oh,
Static
he's gone.
blast. He's gone. I'll have to invite him again. Let's see. Invite to join. I was going to get off here, but I'm having too much fun. What time is it? 1:41. I've got some time. I've got to go pick up Lynn at 4. It's 1:41 p.m. my time. What time is it in your time, Bruno?
Right here it is 7:40 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
It's the
afternoon.
I
7:40
mean,
is evening to me.
evening. Excuse me.
It could be afternoon to you. I mean, there are different ways of looking at time in Italy versus here.
Yeah. But it's 7:40 p.m.
I sure hope we've entertained people today. I think we hit upon some really important stuff in that I think it's a global problem of our species that we need to wake up, get real, We are Homo economicus at this point, and if we don't overthrow the money machine, then we need to do something with it effectively to try to use leverage our technologies we have for the betterment of not only our species but all species on the planet. We could really clean up this place. We
Oh,
have the technologies to do it.
you would need the billionaires on your side, though.
Well, that's the thing. That's where the pitchforks and torches, pitchforks and torches come into play. And I think you're thinking that we should be close to that now, the masses. But the masses aren't. The masses are pretty content with the lives they have, and the relative prosperity of the average person is much higher than it was, you know, 50 years ago. I don't know if it's higher than it was 20 years ago, but that gradual, sort of frog in the, hot water bath problem is happening. So I don't know what's going to drive us to action. What I see here in DC, no action, no real protest of meaningful content. It's shocking to me that we don't have
What is going to
the
drive us
kinds of things we had in the 60s. Go ahead.
what is going to drive us to action is unemployment, poverty, and hunger.
Maybe. Then again, as long as there's enough, people tend to survive and they tend to put up with it versus rocking the boat because so many people are conflict averse. I don't think you and I are conflict averse, Bruno, but I think we're the exceptions rather than the rule. I think most people would go rather go along to get along, I think is the phrase. You following?
Yeah, although I'm thinking that also Americans are famous for suing. Every time they have a disagreement, they sue because in conflict they see an
This is a
economic
gross
opportunity.
generality, Bruno.
I love it that you always have this argument about generalizations, but without generalizations, there are no opinions, and without opinions,
Fair
there is
enough.
no conversation.
Fair enough. I will go with that to some extent. However, the broad brush doesn't really apply because the bulk of Americans don't sue at the drop of a hat. Some do, and being litigious is part of my neighbor's nature, actually. So I should keep my voice low. He doesn't like a lot of noise. I don't either. So I'm going inside, and we'll continue our conversation inside of the bunker,
What is
my
this your place?
shelter.
Is this your place?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's my
2103. Yeah, the Chinese address. Yes.
serious security, folks. Don't even think about it.
You got a nice corner there.
I do. And I have this nice little hovel I live in with my wife, and the housekeeping is gone. So I can turn on the light, turn on my Sonos. There's a reliquary of my former brother, Hudson. He was a dog, golden retriever. So it's not a person's, it's a dog's. But he's like my brother. He just happened to be four-legged and a golden retriever body. So yeah, so you're in the inner sanctum, and I'm probably on the wireless now. Probably being surveilled because I'm very close to all these embassies,
Well, I'm I'm
and
I'm gonna I'm
I don't
gonna
mind. I'm
I'm
hoping that I'm
gonna
confusing them with all the glut of information I sort of spew out into the atmosphere. Yeah, they did nice. Yeah, need to get a cup of coffee. Do I have it? Oh yes, I do. So yeah, Lynn's into angels. So I'm always getting her angel things, and some of our mottos: anyone can be cool, but awesome takes practice. She thought I was talking about me. I was talking about her. So we have a pretty good life here. And I think a lot of Americans live like this. I don't know that there is a compact territory, but it is what it is. We have these lovely closets here too. It's one of the greatest things, closet space for my books. I get an idea of what I like to read. Basic writings of Heidegger. Zitate and Aussprüche. Those are very handy. It's nice to have some citations and sayings to work with. So yeah, this is the inner sanctum. That's my little corner from which I philosophize on the passing show and what might be happening. Did we get? We didn't get Everyday Junglist back. We're still waiting for him. I don't guess he will be back. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah. Any questions? Anything on your mind that you want to talk about?
Oh
Did we
yeah,
get
no,
any questions in the chat?
I'm gonna expand on my generalization about the tendency of Americans to sue.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about it, even though you might not like my. I generalize, but in the end, I go building up some theories, and I come up with some little
Fair enough.
intuitions.
Fair enough. I'm listening.
And also, don't forget that I am an Italian Latin American, so I am not American. So I have a different point of view, but I went to an American school and I've studied American literature and I've studied American history. So America is something to be dealt with, it's something to be understood in its peculiar idiosyncrasy. And the element of suing, I find it a very peculiar element of Americans. And let me tell you why. Because, for example, when you see movies, when you see TV series, like Law and Order or Suits, or when you see in a movie an accident, even I have been in car accidents in the United States, and whenever there is some kind of accident that involves destruction of property, for example, a car comes in and crashes into your house, or a fire burns your books, whatever, I noticed that Americans tend to think of the crisis as a business opportunity. They're either going to make money out of the insurance or they're going to make money out of the guy or the other car, But in general, Americans tend to see the destruction of their private property, which is something sacred. Private property is sacred in America. So for an American, whenever there is some kind of affection to his private property, immediately the American sees a business opportunity and he can sue. And even though the total cost of your books will be $1,000, you will sue for 10,000 or 1 million. Like Trump. Trump is an excellent example of this. Trump sues up for everything and for incredible amounts of money that have nothing to do with the cost of the real hazard. And so I think that this mentality that any kind of damage to private property can actually become a business opportunity is of the essence of the American mentality, and it explains a lot of things. Because for example, if I would be here in Italy, if you crash a car, okay, the first thing that the Italians will do is they will step out of the car and they will ensure that the other person is okay, and then they will exchange telephone numbers, and then they will say, okay, let our insurance.
That's a normal thing.
Let the insurance deal with it, and if not, you can call me and we'll see how we do, and I will fix your car or you will fix mine or whatever. Basically, there's a crisis, not a crisis. The damage of property is not necessarily a business opportunity, but for Americans it is. And I would say that this structures the whole legal system of the United States. You have to understand that, for example, in Chile or in Italy, what you guys pay to a lawyer for an hour, what an American lawyer charges for 1 hour, what we here charge for the whole thing. Okay, we crash a car, and if we don't agree with the guy, we will end up paying 1,000 euros to deal through lawyers. In the US, $1,000 is the cost of 1 or 2 hours of the lawyer, and lawyers immediately, whenever there is some kind of damage to property, lawyers immediately jump in looking at the business opportunity of it. Now let me extrapolate this generalization to what's happening now, which is every time there is a conflict, people are looking how to extract a benefit of the conflict. The conflict is not something that has to be solved so that life goes back into its normal track. But the conflict is an opportunity to enrich yourself. And this explains a lot this tendency, to fight with each other all the time. And, all these things, you park your car in front of a house and some lady comes out the camera and says, hey, you're parked in front of my house and that's illegal. And the guy says, no, it's not illegal, it's a street. And she says, I'm gonna denounce you. And the guy says, well, you can go ahead, I have the right to park here. Immediately the conflict escalates, you understand? And that is something that I see all the. I stopped watching Facebook and Instagram because of the amount of conflict that I constantly saw between Americans. Any little difference, any little discrepancy, any little disagreement becomes a war. Oh, I've
Or
been left.
can.
Are you there?
I am.
Huh.
And it can become a war. It doesn't have to become a war.
But it tends to become a
The
war.
general thing you pointed out about this perception, and it's a valid perception, a lot of people have it, of this being, you know, precipitating negative consequences for humanity, for all life on the planet. We're going to get down to it. This competitiveness, I will agree with that, but I'll globalize it out to being primate behavior. And you can, you know, put the spotlight on and say this is in the borders of the United States, probably mostly in the continental United States, and particularly within certain segments of the United States, like the red states. I don't know. I think that that's playing into the hands of those who want to keep us divided and keep us squabbling amongst ourselves, even about that, right? I don't know. I will step outside of it and say, seems to me we can do better as a species, wholly. And we got to cut the crap of competitiveness and get more to cooperation. The things that actually worked for us as we moved from, well, I don't know if they worked for us or not when I think about civilization, right, Bruno? Because I'm going back to before we were actually using language to keep track of grain. I think that's really how it came about, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to keep a track of our surplus when we finally had it. And we didn't really have it until 12,000 years ago, according to the things I'm seeing. I don't know. What do you think? You see where I'm going?
Of course I do. Okay, let's go up. Let's race into philosophy. The problem for Americans is that cooperation and solidarity has a smell of socialism and communism, and
Well, it's
therefore,
easy to get people to react to it that way. That's
yeah,
true. A
it's like,
certain component within the society too, particularly those with Carlin would have said it this way. You remember George Carlin, the
of course I
comic?
know, of course I know George
And you
Carlin.
know what he would say about this? Think about how stupid your average person is.
Yeah.
Then realize half of them are stupider than that by definition. And there you have your problem. That people can be stirred up by their emotions, that they can be keyed up and to believing that these people are that way, those people are that way. We're better than that. Us people who are better than that, we are. And
Well,
we got to get past this. Go ahead.
a key institution. Let's talk about the key institution where you discuss collaboration, cooperation, solidarity are the unions. Okay, and America has a
What
huge
unions?
problem about unions, and
What
you know
unions?
unions.
Yeah,
Unions.
what? We don't
Unions.
have those.
We
They've
don't
been
have them, but
they've
you
been
used to
totally
have them.
destroyed.
They have been destroyed by Reagan. Yes,
And not just Reagan. I mean, it's not one human being who does these things, right?
I disagree.
It's a culture.
I
And it's
disagree.
we together participate in this.
I
We
disagree.
allow
You know why I disagree? Let me tell you why I disagree. Because
you
if
keep
you read,
coming back to the head man. Okay, go ahead.
it's not that I want to blame Reagan, but certain events modify perceptions and modify judgments. And go back to the first action that Reagan took when he went in office in 81 when Reagan went in office in 81, he had a union strike of all air traffic controllers. 11,000 air traffic controllers went into a strike, and they paralyzed the airports. And do you remember what Reagan said? You're all fired. If you go back to this case, which pretty much explains.
It fired 11,345 controllers who refused to return to work within 48 hours and banned them from
Exactly.
federal service for life.
Exactly.
Yep, there it is. Got it.
Okay.
August 3rd. It was August 3rd, 1981, to be precise. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm right in my case. Thank you for the confirmation of this is not a generalization. This is a specific case,
Well, I remember it. I was in high school at the time, or
Everyone
just out of high
remembers
school,
it.
about to go to
It was a
college.
shocking thing, He was paralyzed. He was giving an order to all traffic controllers, and he was paralyzing the airports for 48 hours. And this pretty much set up the mentality of Reagan from there on, the destruction of unions.
And this has persisted. I have a lot of friends who are in the labor category, for being pro-labor and pro-union, and they're still on the front lines, which I really appreciate. And I've watched that here in DC. And like I said, it's business as usual. There's the push and shove and ebb and flow of power and energy driven by the dollars.
Yes. But
if the dollars were constrained, if people would pay attention to what is happening with their dollars, they might have a chance. But they don't have a chance without that. That's my thesis.
We can certainly reduce the present problem to money. Money has become God,
and how we use it, because it's energy.
But it's not always money. For example, 2 days ago, I watched in Netflix. I watched the documentary about Boeing, and the crisis of Boeing when they began externalizing the building of the airplanes, and then they decided to reduce the cost of the 787 Dreamliner, and then they decided to create the 737 MAX, and suddenly the 737 MAX, which was a new airplane, was crashing around, and 350 people died, and therefore a huge judicial case was set against Boeing. And the first move of Boeing was to move or create a second construction plant. They had their typical plant in Seattle, but they decided to set a second construction plant in North Carolina, where Nikki Haley was the governor, And there's Nikki Haley who comes up in a press conference, and she says, what's great about North Carolina is that we don't have unions because we don't need unions. And this was her political speech, like, come on over here and establish your
South Carolina.
South Carolina, yes, excuse me. And I found it. I never liked Nikki Haley, but I found shocking that a governor would say that the selling point of her state would be that they have no unions because they don't need them and they don't like them. I found it terrible. And of course, the thing continued because then another plane fell and finally Boeing had to face the consequences. But a lot of people had to die for this thing to be halted, for an accountability to the practices of the company. And actually, Boeing as a brand went down the drain.
Yes. And the other thing I think is that people had to die, right? People have to have real consequences before they're willing to take action. And most of us are too fat and happy to take any action that would inconvenience us or get us to, not be able to sink back into our, my mid-century lounge and kick my feet up and, wax poetic about the ways of the world. And I do that. And I hate myself for it sometimes because I think I ought to be more of an activist. I ought to be more effective and efficient and be a better ancestor and result. And so I'm working on that. With you.
During his first campaign, Trump, among the many incredible things that he said that he wanted to strike down the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was quite a declaration, I would say. It immediately made everyone very cautious about Trump, because it was an extreme declaration. Now, this is another point about American psyche. The relation between America and human rights. Because for example, Europe is typically criticized because we're very slow and we have a lot of bureaucracy and we have a system of government that nobody understands between the European Parliament and the Council of Europe and the European Commission. It's very difficult to explain. But a principle that was stated by Europe long ago in the 60s, was that nobody would be allowed into the European Union unless they respected due process, human rights, and free market. Okay, and the defense of human rights in Europe is very strong. For example, every time that there is a decision whether we allow Moldova or Ukraine or the Balkans into the European Union, is their track record on human rights. And if the track record is not good, then they won't get into the European Union. And this is an evaluation of something very subjective that has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the way you treat human life. Okay. And what I have seen in America, is a progressive corrosiveness of the respect to human rights, which I don't understand. For example, to me, the most shocking policy right now in the United States is the concentration camps where you're storing 60 to 70,000 people who have no due process and who are ready for deportation, and nobody knows where these camps are and who these people are. Lawyers cannot interview the detainees, and I don't understand why this is happening, because this already happened in the States once. And it happened under one of your best presidents, which was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Roosevelt did so many important things, particularly the New Deal, which was pretty much a realignment with the unions. But as you might recall, due to the war with Japan, Roosevelt decided to install concentration camps for Japanese people living in the States, and that included Japanese people and also descendants of Japanese and everything. And this is up to date the most criticized policy of Roosevelt, and it was a shameful policy, and everyone agrees that it was shameful to put in custody Japanese people just because they have these eyes. It was a horrendous type of racism. You go to jail because you have a face that is Oriental. Now I find it amazing, how far ICE has gotten, because one thing is to create this secret police that goes around shooting people. Another thing is allowing these people to detain without due process and incarcerate people. You have 70,000 people in detention centers and nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows where these detention centers are, and nobody knows what is going to happen to all these people, And I am amazed at the coldness with which Americans face this thing. There's only one other country that does this, and that is El Salvador, which is the model, the second prison, But in the rest of the world, well, maybe with the exception of Russia also, but in the rest of the world, that doesn't happen. Concentration camps is a thing of the past. We're supposed to have overcome it after Nuremberg and after Auschwitz. And people walk around America, totally peaceful, because there are concentration camps where there are people incarcerated without due process, and we don't even know who they are. I find this horrendous. This is dystopian. This is totally dystopian, and it recalls the worst dystopian movies like Brazil, in which, or V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta is actually a very interesting reference right now, because of this thing that you can get detained and you can get incarcerated, and then you can be erased from history. When we had secret police in Chile, left-wingers would be detained and they would be incarcerated, and then the family would go in front of the judicial system, and the judicial system would say, these people do not exist. We have no record of these people. These people never existed. There's no documentation of these people. Maybe they went for Russia. Maybe they went for Czechoslovakia. We don't know.
Yep, the disappearances. I remember hearing a lot about that when I was at Amnesty in 1985 at the Southeast Regional Conference. I'm just looking at the ICE detention facilities. There are like 8 pages of them detailed here as to where they are. And but there are probably things that are not known, like there were during the period in which we were using Guantanamo, which we still are. And, the rendition sites around Europe and elsewhere. I, my God, Camp Perry was right outside of where I lived and when I grew up. Williamsburg, Virginia. And that was where the CIA did a lot of their work on the double agents that we discovered. Yeah, all this stuff, Bruno, is true. The primate behavior, the way in which we're inhuman to each other, the way in which we go through cycles of this, way in which this ought not ever happen. It should not happen under any circumstances. We forget our history too easily. I'm with you on all those things. I think that we collectively are responsible, though, and I think I have a responsibility for my part in it, and I have a part in it. I've been here 63 years. I've not always used my voice to raise it in protest to just what you're describing. Of course, I
No,
want all the
no,
facts and figures. I want the details. I want us all to do our own research. I want to encourage anybody listening to do your own research. Don't trust us. Don't trust me, anyway. You can
no.
trust Bruno, maybe, but don't trust me.
my
Go
my
ahead. You were
my
saying.
point about this is that this happened only 10 years ago, okay? And when the scandal of the Abu Ghraib prison in
Oh, yeah.
Iraq, or when
Yeah.
the scandal of Guantanamo happened, American journalism exploded with it, and everyone began questioning it. And finally, Donald Rumsfeld, who was the Ministry of Defense, he had to go and he had to make a declaration, and he finally admitted abuses, and he said that they would be corrected. Now compare the attitude of Donald Rumsfeld, who, compared to Hexet, Donald Rumsfeld looks like a gentleman. I mean, Hexet is not only a clown, but it's a permanent expression of an extreme cruelty that is totally unacceptable. And I can't believe that people accept, the kind of clownish cruelty that Hexes is continuously expressing. Now it is like, yeah, we're cruel and we're going to get more cruel. So prepare. And this happened 10 years ago. What happened? Not only what happened with the press, but also what happened with the mentality of you Americans regarding human rights.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened to it is that it was never there in the first place. We have allowed an erosion of morality that is shocking, but it is typical of primate tribes. And I don't think it's unique to Americans by any stretch of the imagination. So I kick that back again. But at the same time, I mean, my God, what have we been doing since 1945 except meddling with the world in ways that we think are constructive and we know are destructive? We can see the evidence. And the more we try to control things, the more that we try to force our will onto things, the worse things become for a lot of people. And when are we going to get smarter? I mean, as a species, I don't know. I have my doubts that we're capable of it sometimes, but then I have hope. Music gives me hope, art, literature, seeing people come together in tens of hundreds of thousands in celebration. And the Woodstock generation gave us a glimmer. And then we hang on to that as though that was something we can rekindle. And when they tried to, of course, it turned into a disaster, particularly in '99. But, you see where I'm going, I think, maybe.
Yeah, but
Because
look,
as a species, we need to evolve. Go ahead.
yeah, you always take it to the species, but I bring it back to
And
America
I will
because
not
America is the
I will
problem.
not accept that really because I think it's too narrow a focus. If you take the focus and put it on America continually, you will basically just perpetuate a ineffective
Excuse me, but
mindset that
we don't
doesn't
have
do
concentration.
anything.
We don't have concentration camps in Europe. We don't have concentration camps in Chile or in
I
Argentina.
think you need to do your research and be real thorough on the details
I am
of
being
what
very,
you're
I am
asserting.
being very serious about what I'm telling you.
Now, what we've got is a situation where there is the what do they call it? The alligator Alcatraz down in the swamps of Florida, and I would love to have cameras in there where we could actually surveil what is actually happening and get some real knowledge of that in front of the public in the world, not just us. So,
Okay,
certainly there have been concentration camps in Europe. Certainly, you have an immigration problem that is handled in various ways. I don't know exactly how. We could put a lens on that and start to do a competition about it. But what would be the value? Where is the value to be found in casting stones at the Americans for being this way versus looking at our own hands and saying, how can we be different?
Look, I made the point only because I find it amazing because Americans
I
were
know
not
what
like
you're saying. I
Americans
hear it loud and
were not like
clear.
10
I'm
years
just
ago.
saying it's unproductive.
Huh?
I say that it's actually going to build up barriers and not actually further your cause. You'll just keep people hardening their resistance to what you're broad brushing them with. And that's not actually going to play to what I believe is your ultimate goal, which is to wake all of us up to being more humane
Well, I mean,
or worthy of the word.
if you want me to be more pragmatic about this,
We
uh,
have to look at our part in it collectively. I mean, we've all participated in the world we're in.
yeah, but okay, but then you play the other card, which is you normalize worldly something that is happening only in some parts of the world. Nevertheless, I am not trying to establish this point as a competition. I am just surprised that America used to be a bastion of human rights. They were
I don't think
really.
it ever was. That's my thing, is that it never really was. It was something that a lot of people thought it was, or that they bought into an image that was projected of this, but it never was really true.
Well, look, I could talk to you about that a little bit when we went into the unipolar world when the wall came down and suddenly America was the only
Well,
superpower.
I'm thinking about the eradication of the American Indians.
Yeah. But okay, okay, let's get practical. Okay, let's get practical.
Okay.
Now,
And what year do you want to be?
you're heading now that because to me the point is priorities. Okay, so
Okay.
for example, now you're heading for the elections in 71 days. Okay, and you're about to the main political objective is to win what is called a supermajority. America needs a supermajority to resolve the Supreme Court, to put a checkpoint to Trump, to I don't know, restore the mall and restore the John F. Kennedy Center and stop the tariff bullshit and all that. You basically need a supermajority. If you don't get a supermajority, you have your hands tied. Now, just like what happened with Hungary. Hungary got a supermajority and they could get rid of Orban like this. Okay, so
Sure.
it feels like America is going to, thanks to a blue wave, it seems that it is going to get a supermajority, which in the American case would be to win the Senate and to win the House of Representatives. In my point of view, if Americans would regain the House and the Senate, the first action shouldn't be to impeach Trump. The first action should be to eliminate ICE. The first action should be to release all these prisoners. The first action should be, the first actions that should be taken with a supermajority should be actions that restore human rights, due process. Then we can go into, the swindling and the hoax and the Trump family and the corruption. Then we can go to the little thing, because all that is money. And I have the feeling that if you Americans get the supermajority, you're going to go into the money issues. He stole this, he stole that, he's corrupted for this, he got this amount of money, he should be in jail for this. You're going to get a put in jail. Basically, the supermajority of Americans is going to be used to put more people in jail, where I think that the supermajority in America should be used to remove people from jail, particularly people that shouldn't be in jail.
Okay. I'll support that. But I don't think that a supermajority is unlikely. I don't think that the Democrats have played to their strength. In fact, if anything, they've played to their weakness more often than not. And I have little hope that the elections are going to do anything. That said, if it does, great. But I do think that they will fritter it away on political will. And what you're describing is political behavior among primates. I'll go back to that. Because, I don't know, the power politics, everybody is basically bought in Congress. The way they have to work, like 60% of their time minimally is on campaigning for their reelection. After that, they can spend some time on the legislature, but very little of it actually is spent there. Most of their attention is spent on getting themselves back into office and hanging on to power.
Okay, true, but
It's a broken system, and I
true.
don't think it's going to be
It's a broken
fixed.
system, but pay attention to the phenomena that is happening. Since the election of Soran Mamdani, many candidates have won the seat or have won the by-election or have won the primary, having much less money than the best paid candidate. So for the first time,
Fingers crossed.
we're watching candidates that win the position without having an enormous budget. Okay, this is new,
We'll
and
see.
and it has been repeating in these last weeks. A lot of candidates that had grassroots support. The $5, send me $5, send me $1. A lot of these candidates have won the by-election or the primary or the seat. And this is
I'll
new.
be willing to eat my words.
Hmm?
I'll be willing to eat my words and
Oh, thank you.
see a good result, but I doubt it. I don't think the Americans are in enough pain to do it.
Okay, but I worked as a staffer for politicians, and I can tell you that these budgets, when you get a budget for a campaign, okay, you get $50 million or $10 million, okay. Let me tell you, we staffers make nothing. They pay us peanuts, okay. The majority of the budget of a campaign is spent on television advertisement and roadside advertisement. Basically, the advertisement industry is the one that gets all this money, which means that many people make their decision on the vote depending on how many times they see the candidate on television or how many times they see the candidate on a roadside sign.
Uh-huh.
It's a very, funnily enough, elections are decided by faces, and faces are placed with money that is paid to advertisement. This is the way it is. This happens everywhere. Now, name recognition is a key element to vote for somebody, not his policies, not his career, not his integrity. Integrity is out of the window. It doesn't matter anymore, particularly after Trump. Integrity is out of the window. Now, it is interesting, particularly in the American case, that so many candidates are making their way through, even though they don't have so much money, which means that people are, my hypothesis, if people are not looking for the candidates in television or in the signs by the side of the road, that means that a lot of people are looking at podcasts. That means that a lot of people are reading internet. That means that a lot of people are trying to find out who is the best candidate through different means. Otherwise, there's no other way to explain why Abdul El Sayed won, for example. It was 4 million against 60 million, and he won. And it was a Democrat against a Democrat.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. So maybe things have shifted. I'm hopeful and they can, but I've been doubtful about it because of what I've seen.
What I think that is shifting, even for the wrong reasons, is that people are not choosing candidates the way they used to choose them, which is facial recognition.
Mhm.
And people are beginning to understand the importance to learn a little bit about the integrity of the character. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? What has he done? Okay. And the internet campaign of Al Sayed was very smart, very, very smart, because he basically, the political campaign of Al Sayed is a campaign that insisted about his integrity, who he was when he was young, what he did when he was a representative of the students, what has he done as a doctor, where has he studied, what does his father and his mother and his grandfather and his grandmother think of him, which is one of the great highlights of his campaign. His grandparents validating him, endorsing him. It's very sweet. James Talarico immediately saw this, and Talarico immediately started to copy the model of the campaign of Al Sayed. Another candidate that doesn't have so much money, but nevertheless is going forward against Ken Paxton. So there is a difference in the way people are perceiving and deciding their vote, okay, which I think is a change that is very sudden, and Republicans are not really understanding it because they're terrible at internet. Republicans have reduced the use of internet to rage baiting, to momentum, to hate campaigns, to smearing, the old way, all that they learned from Newt Gingrich. Republicans are still playing with the Newt Gingrich playbook on campaigning. They haven't.
Or the Steve Bannon campaign, who went to Europe, by the way, and worked with most populist campaigns over there. Did you see that documentary?
Which one?
On Steve Bannon and his work in the populist campaigns in Europe.
Yes, yeah, the one about Brexit. Yes, of course. Yeah, and you could say You could say that Bannon is an elaboration of Newt Gingrich and Roger Stone and Roy Cohn, all these intellectuals about rage baiting. Rage baiting is a style of campaigning. Okay, that's my first theory. Second theory, people are fatigued. People are totally fatigued of this war of personalities. Everyone criticizing everyone. Everyone speaking negatively about everyone. It's not that I want your vote. It's that I want you not to vote for the other guy. People are fatigued about that, the same happens if you're in a dinner party, okay, you're with 12 people having a beer or drinking, or and suddenly everyone begins speaking poorly about everyone. You want to leave. You don't want to stay there. You want to stay in a place where people are
Hell yeah.
friendly and compassionate to each other. There's a moment in which you stand up and you leave. You don't want to go into this thing of complaining about everyone, like everyone would
I
be.
don't know. Anyway, go ahead, Bruno. I'm being facetious.
Okay, that's second theory. And third theory,
Fatigue. Got it.
fatigue is the second theory. The first theory is how people are choosing their vote. The second theory is fatigue. And the third theory, I forgot. It will come back to me.
I'll be patient.
People are recalling that people have the feeling that we're not in the future that was promised to us. The 80s and the 90s look better than the 2020s. A lot of people have some, especially our generation, the Xers, we have some sort of nostalgia for the 80s and the 90s. I'm not saying Woodstock. I'm not saying this. I'm saying the 80s and the 90s. I'm saying that time when popular culture was fun, and you had the possibility to buy a house, and there was a job, and there was a neighborhood, and things look brighter into the future. There's a nostalgia for something, and so people are beginning to crave a better atmosphere that happened not long ago. 20 years ago, 15 years ago. A lot of people remember that things were more peaceful at that time. And so people need some kind of atmosphere where things can grow, where things can be a little bit more positive. And so this questioning, I think, is very timely, because this questioning sort of destroys the uniparty myth. This is not about politicians. This is about us. We created a society that was more interesting, more culturally sophisticated, more multicultural 20 years ago, and suddenly we're in the midst of this war of personalities, all this identity culture politics, that is exhausting. It's exhausting, because if you get into it, you can't get out of it. You begin complaining about the Arabs or the Muslims or the Republicans or the evangelicals or whatever, and you can never get out of that discussion. That is where I agree with you that excessive generalization can be very dangerous, because not all evangelicals are the same. Not all Arabs are the same. Not all Haitians are the same. But the campaigns now prey on it. The campaigns prey on reducing people to archetypes, to people, lefties. I hate the word lefties. I find it amazing. The way people use people talk about the left or Antifa as if it was a political party or an ideology. It is not.
Well, I do think that the idea of being anti-fascist is admirable, but it is good to go back to Mussolini's observation that it could easily be called corporatist. And when these people, if the good ones get elected, as you're hoping, and we get a supermajority and all that, they're still owned, and they'll still be paying the piper who funds them the most, right? So they'll continually be manipulated by those same factors. And if we don't clue ourselves in and start spending in a way that basically it takes away from the economic power of certain individuals and starts to empower people more broadly and start being really mindful about it as a people, we might have a chance. Did I get cut off? No.
No,
Okay.
no
Um,
image.
I'm just thinking that we can do better as a species, and that the problem largely lies in the surface effects of the elections are one thing, but how business as usual is being conducted in D.C. and the world stage generally, and the economic forums behind the scenes. It's business as usual, and it's playing, and they wouldn't be allowing a lot of the stuff that goes on in the theater of the absurd that we see on the news all the time, right? The mainstream media, if you will, to be going on, if unless it was serving somebody. Who's it serving? I don't know. What do you think?
The third theory came back to my mind, but I'm gonna
Okay, go ahead for the third theory, and then we can come
wait.
back to
I'm gonna first talk about Mussolini, which touches me personally.
of
Um,
course.
when for the second inauguration of Trump, that he decided to make it indoors because he would never get a huge crowd. He made it inside, and that scene, the scene for the second inauguration of Trump, was shocking. And I found it
You had the
shocking. Any
technocrats.
Italian found it shocking because there was Trump and there was all the billionaires there. Tim Cook was there, and Elon, and Sandra Pichai,
Bezos.
and Jeff Bezos, and you saw, if you're Italian, and you
Yeah.
see this scene, all the corporativists on the right side and the president and the Republicans on the right side, you see the fusion of corporativism with the government, and this is the basis of the first type of historical fascism. And
Correct.
this is a repetition. It is a visual repetition of 1921 when King Umberto I gave Mussolini the presidency
Exactly.
of the country, and there was the king, there was Mussolini, and there were all the corporativists from Italy sitting there watching how power was being transferred to Mussolini. Okay, so when I saw the second inauguration, I immediately understood where we were going. This was immediately a sign of extreme fascism. So what is unavoidable is a clash with the billionaires, or how to divide the billionaires from the government, or how to divide money from politics, or how to destroy Citizens United, or how to code Citizens United out of the picture. And this
Yep.
in the American case has a difference to Italy, and it is the fact that American legislation has twisted the concept of free speech, and it has twisted it in a way that no other country has done, which is that not only physical people like you and me have freedom of speech, but corporations also have freedom of speech, which is the legal basis of Citizens United.
Right.
Okay, this is a very strange thing, the fact
Yes.
that the thing that you would say that a corporation has free speech. A corporation is not a person. A corporation can't have rights.
Wait a second now. The very word corporation has in it embodiment. So, in legal standing, a corporation is a person.
A
That's
corporation,
what that's
a
what
corporation, a
Romney
corporation is
meant.
a non-physical person, not a
That's
physical.
what Romney meant when he was said corporations are people, my friend.
Yeah, this was one of the major mistakes of Romney, and I'm sure he regrets.
Exactly.
I'm sure
He
he.
wasn't wrong though.
Huh?
He wasn't wrong though.
He is wrong. Of course, he's wrong. He's wrong from a theoretical point of view.
But a corporation is like you said, a non
A
real
corporation is not a
person.
person.
It is a
Corporation is not
considered
a
a
person.
person
Therefore, a non-person doesn't have speech, so there's
from
no
a
speech
legal standpoint though.
from a legal standpoint. Of course, from a
It
legal
is a
standpoint.
person. Yeah.
I mean, the judicial system in every country makes the difference between physical people and non-physical people, and there's
Non-physical people. There you go.
this is theoretical, okay, but this is a principle in the law. Now, the weird thing is that Americans decided to give free speech rights to non-people.
Yeah, we did. We sure
Yeah.
did.
And you're the only country who has done it, and it is extremely weird.
And it is because it served the purposes of those non-physical people.
And it was a sophisticated legal way to make corporations be allowed to spend money in political campaigns. games. You know,
Are you familiar with Crowds in Power by Elias Canetti?
Of course.
Okay, good. So that's exactly the same thing I was seeing from Crowds in Power, that these beastly corporations have their own agendas. They're made up of us, but they have totally different agendas than we do. And that's what I'm noticing about just about all these corporations, including those that are right now fielding the big data centers and trying to put the AI out there.
Okay, but let's not go so far away, because not only a corporation can't have speech because it's not a person, but also a corporation can if we continue with Citizens United, eventually corporations will have the right to vote.
They already do, basically. I mean, they don't have the right to vote in an election, but they do vote with the dollars. Every cent spent is a vote. I keep saying it.
Well, okay.
It's energy.
In that aspect, I would go back to my second theory, which is that right now, in the past, spending $1 on a campaign motivated you to vote for a candidate, so you could make the equivalence that $1 is a vote. But first of all,
no, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it in a much more concrete way. Every cent is a vote for the kind of world we're co-creating.
Okay, but
they're stimulating the economy in a certain direction. Every bit of energy we expend is pushing the future out into a different direction. The very sound waves of our voices emanating through these microwaves and stuff is doing something. Go ahead. You were saying.
Yeah, but this is very theoretical, but corporations are not a person in many different ways. Not only do they not have free speech, but they also don't have memory or history. You change the CEO of a corporation and the corporation completely changes. This is something that I learned now watching the Boeing documentary, which is very interesting. Or just look at what happened with Disney. The change between Mike Eisner and Bob Iger. It's two Disneys and Walt Disney. Walt Disney and his nephew had a vision for Disney, and then Mike Eisner had another vision, and then Bob Iger had another vision. The corporation can change, and actually Disney went from being extremely conservative and philo-fascist, it went into being woke. Okay, so corporations cannot be in any way, shape, or form considered persons, and therefore they have no free speech right.
People can't change?
Right to vote.
Corporations change, and therefore they can't be people?
Exactly.
But people change, and they're still people. I'm not the same person I was 30 years ago.
The way a person changes is through psychology. You cannot apply psychology to a corporation. And actually, you remind me of there's a very excellent 2001 documentary done in the US.
Okay.
Which is called the documentary is called The Corporation. It's a very long documentary. It's 2 hours long. You can find it in YouTube. The Corporation, and the corporation plays with this idea the other way around. It says, okay, let's think that corporations are people. They can vote, and they can buy votes, and they can influence public opinion, and they can create super PACs, etc. Okay, and so the documentary explores what happens if we finally concede that a corporation can be the same as a human person. And the conclusion of the documentary is that the corporation will develop a psychopathic personality. It's a very good documentary.
Well, it's very similar to what Elias Canetti was saying in Crowds in Power. These behemoths, and this was seen in Metropolis as well, we were talking about earlier. It becomes this inhuman monster that consumes people as its fuel. And I think there's a lot of truth to the systems into which we were launched when we were born. I forget, Bruno, how old you are, but I was born in 1963. What year were you born?
I was born in 1973.
1973, the year of spring chicken. But anyway.
If you say so.
Yeah, 1973 I recall pretty well because I was watching the Watergate situation unfold on television with my father. We were actually on vacation in North Carolina for part of it. And I remember when Butterfield revealed that there were tapes. Nobody knew about these damn tapes, that they were running all the time in the White House and that they could be, subpoenaed. That was such a moment. I remember it vividly. So that was your year of your birth. Yeah. It was something else.
It's also the year of the military coup in Chile.
a military coup in Chile that overthrew
Allende.
Allende.
Yes.
Allende. And, just horrific stuff happened in Chile during that time. And you were born there, right?
Yes, I was born there.
But you're half Italian, is that right?
That is right.
Okay, got it.
My father is Italian. My mother is Chilean.
Yeah, how are they now? Are they still around?
My father is dead.
Yeah, mine too. Your mother's
And
still
my
around?
and my mother is in Chile, and she's very old.
Yeah. How's she doing?
Oh, we got suddenly very personal.
I'm curious,
She has a heart condition. She's a little bit weak.
but she's mentally all there.
Oh yeah, she's totally there.
That's good. My mom, is in memory care, and is not all there.
I had a lo- I had a, had a long chat with my mother before I jumped into your podcast.
Well, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. My mother and I can't really talk on the phone now, and I did go there last Saturday to see her, though. Not just 2 days ago, but rather,
Okay,
it's just 9 or 10 days ago. My point being that, yeah, it's something that I think about is that as I'm aging, I have an opportunity while I still got my wits about me to make a difference in this world. My parents did. My mother did the e-museum system. I talk about that a lot in my Harrowings podcast stuff, or not just the podcast, but also the writings. And it's a cultural monument, preserves all these different access to decorative arts and such that are in Colonial Williamsburg's collections. So I like that she had a role in that for 32 years, and that's sort of a living legacy. So, what kind of legacy are we going to leave with our voting and how we're going to see this political moment we're in through? And what's going to be the effect of America's hegemony over the world? Those are the things I think were on our mind before I digressed into your heritage and how old you are versus how old I am. Good to see that we're both holding up okay. We talked about shocks too, I think, a little bit last time that we might have had in life. That's always interesting to me too. But getting back to the politics, getting back to the world stage.
Okay, I'm gonna complete my theory about what to do with the supermajority.
Very good.
One is that people are deciding their vote not so influenced by money as it used to be 20 years ago. That's the first one. The second one is this fatigue. We're all tired of this constant cultural wars, everyone fighting with everyone. Every podcast is against another podcast. We're overwhelmed. Your theory about the overwhelming of the nervous system, all that is also a point to be considered. And the third point that I think is very interesting for the present situation is unforced errors, which is that now that Trump is unavoidably going to die, and now that we're reaching a point of maximum tension, either martial law or we vote and we get the supermajority and we begin cleaning up the mess. Republicans are, as was expected, jumping off the ship like rats. And therefore, there's a lot of unforced errors happening. For example, the majority of the candidates that Trump endorsed are losing. For example, a great selection of candidates have been terrible. For example, leaving John Cornyn out, or leaving Tom Tillis out, or choosing Ken Paxton for Texas. These are total mistakes. I mean, they chose the worst people available. And these are enforced errors. And unintended errors of which we can take advantage. The last error that I saw is today. This meeting between Hakeem Jeffries and Jared Kushner, which I find. Did you see this? This is a horrendous political mistake. And funnily enough, I think it is going to strengthen Democrats. It is not going to weaken them. But there's a lot of mistakes happening every day. The way Trump is dealing with the Iran war, the declarations of Marco Rubio about birthright citizenship, him being a Cuban, the declaration of Sean Duffy today, where he said that the way transportation is moving along is fine. the way Besant is dealing with the bond market, the way Robert Kennedy Jr. is dealing with measles, the way they speak, all of them are. If you notice, Republicans are making mistake after mistake after mistake. They're giving us the supermajority. They're giving the way because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to react. And in cult mentality, if we consider the Trump phenomenon a cult, in cult mentality, the cult dies with the cult leader, and the cult leader tends to try to kill all of his followers with him. He doesn't, a cult leader never leaves a follower, and this is also the major mistake of Trump. Trump is not preparing any kind of successor, okay, which is probably the major mistake. There's nobody that can speak about the upcoming elections if it is not Trump. And it is no wonder now that this woman from hell, Susie Wiles, who I thought she was like the mature one in the group. She's not. She's a terrible person. Susie Wiles came up now with the idea that she's going to suspend all the political activities of Trump, and she's going to put Trump in campaign during the midterm elections because it's only Trump that can get the votes, And Trump is in no physical condition to tour the country and go supporting House representatives and Senate candidates, So this is going to be their final. They're going to kill Trump with the campaign, I bet you. They're going to push him to an extreme level of traveling and physical demand that he's not going to resist. And this is already a mistake. And I see a lot of mistakes happening. So a third element that I see in favor of what's going to happen is the insurmountable amount of mistakes that Republicans are doing. And basically, intelligent Democrats are taking advantage of this. Intelligent Democrat and analysts are taking note of what is happening and are noticing it that, okay, this is a mistake, that let's take advantage of this. For example, the way John Ossoff saw this little weak point on Natalie Harp, and he threw the element of Natalie Harp into the public debate, and it exploded. And it was just a little line, but he noticed a weakness. It didn't look good that Trump saved this girl and left all his cabinet in the other plane. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, we heard that. I don't know. I see so much of it as theatrics and distracting from our collective responsibility to leave the world a better place for the generations to come. And the amount of energy and attention we give to this is, I don't know, it feels like it's not the right place to put the energy. That's one of the reasons I like to back the things I back. In addition to, I think that to some of the things you were talking about earlier about the 2000 time frame when we had hope for the future and a brighter future seemed to be around the corner. Then 2001 came along and sort of knocked us all back, and we threw all the resources into all this hatred globally. And so much of that seemed to be serving exactly the thing you were talking about earlier, which I think is something I'm also hearing about, taking advantage of the crisis situation, seeing the blood in the water, giving the opportunity to say, oh, here's a business opportunity for me or a political opportunity for me. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going? I'm
I do.
all over the map, but go ahead.
I do, and I agree. It's just that I feel that I am, quoting the ancient art of war. I think that we're right now, for the next 2 or 3 months, we are in a tactical moment. We're not in a strategic moment.
I don't know. I want to be strategic all the time.
I know you're strategic, but for
I
example,
want to be up there.
the debate about the apes, or the debate about the intergenerational equality,
and
or
also
the
the
debate
50,
about what planet are we going to leave to our children, is not a
that's
debate
it,
that you
the
can have now.
50,000 mile perspective. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is that I agree with your debate about the apes, and the debate about intergenerational equality, and the debate about what planet are we going to leave to our children. This is a very important debate, but this is not the moment to have it. That is a debate that you can have after the supermajority. It's a debate that can,
I just think the supermajority is not attainable. And I would reiterate that, basically being on the ground here in America.
It's our only hope.
Even if it is attained, It's a changing of, it's the footstool becoming the occupant of the throne that I was talking about earlier. The changing of the guard is not getting to the root of the problem. It's not getting even close to the root of the problem, because if the Democrats have the power, they will be as bad as the Republicans are. They have been consistently since Clinton.
Now you are
When Clinton
now you are
basically was Republican light, he
now you're
saw the
falling.
blood in the water that had been left in the wake of Carter and realized the Democrats had nothing to go on. So he just got himself in there as a less repugnant version, and his charisma carried him through that first election. Go ahead. You can say.
Excuse me, why do you have your camera off?
Because I don't feel like having it on. I'm in the house now. I don't have anything to show you.
Well, your face.
No, it's not necessary.
Okay,
I like
now
Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick, and reality
actually,
is
KDK.
that which
Well, excuse me, but
doesn't go
now,
away when you stop believing in it.
okay, it was just a parenthesis. Well, anyway, excuse me, but now you are falling into the generalization that you so much criticize. Not all Democrats are the same.
Well, I will tell you that what I'm seeing is all politicians are the same. That we have a mono party. We do not have, and Philip K. Dick had this one with the hanged man story. You're probably familiar. There's one party, kill all others, and everybody who is outside of that stream gets killed off. Look at Bernie Sanders in the run up to 2016.
Yeah, well,
Do I
but
need to say more?
I could tell. First of all, I think that Sanders is still a very valid
Huh.
political actor, and he's chosen his fight. His fight is the billionaires and AI, and he's focusing on it head on, like the Pope. The Pope is also head on into this subject. And
Is
so
he?
I think it's great that they've chosen an enemy and that they've chosen to strike the enemy over and over and over again, because they are already operating in the scenario that we have the supermajority. That on one side. On another side, it's not that I'm not a DSA. I'm not American. I don't vote over there. But Abdul Al Sayed or James Talarico are different Democrats, or Soran Mamdani. They're different people. They operate in a
Well, Mandani, maybe. I will
they,
give you that. I don't know
they
the others so
talk in a
well.
different way. They behave in a different way, and they've won elections with less money. Also, they have a gallon. They have something to show. We won the vote without the money, and therefore we have some kind of moral superiority. And this is very interesting about them.
We'll see, because I don't believe the surface of anything. I do believe that the power is underneath of these people. Trace some money, see how it's really flowing, and that'll tell you which way they'll blow when the winds get strong. I don't think we have anything like a left leaning Democratic Party anymore, obviously. And what we have is the leftovers of Clinton and the hubris of Biden and Obama, which I think is very much on display still, is this kind of elitism and kind of belittling of people that don't see it the same way we do, right? So there's this.
Hello. Oh my goodness.
Okay, now I cut off. I'm back. I think I might have gotten cut off there.
Yeah, you got cut off.
Yeah, that was a phone call coming in from a home improvement place. I don't want to talk to them. Anyway, I think you saw the way I was going. I'm kind of pessimistic about our chances of getting anything different than what we've already got. I think we're just going to get in for more of the same, more of this churn of and distraction from what we really need to focus on, which is how can we leverage the technologies that are now at our fingertips to do better work. So it's not just undermining the AI, but actually, if you're going to take these tools that we've developed, and they are tools, then use them appropriately, figure out how to use them effectively and cooperatively as opposed to competitively. Unfortunately, they're in the hands of oligarchs. Go ahead. You were saying
they are also falling into a huge amount of unforced errors. They are going to run out of capital.
unforced errors. Yeah,
They
I'll
are
give you
going
that.
to run out of capital. Their product is not very good. What they promised for 2024 has not yet happened for 2026. They continue to do promises that are unrealistic. The
And
AI,
also, the
the
money
AI,
churn,
huh?
the money churn is money being passed from pocket to pocket to pocket, but it's the same money.
Yes.
And money is a fantasy upon which we all agree. So what you will find is the Treasury printing money to just, I mean, hyperinflation can't be far away. Go ahead. What do you think?
Okay, you throw me more and more elements into the pot. Um,
Sorry. But
yes, I
fake
mean,
money is the problem.
besides the problem of circularity of the funding of the AI industry, the
Yeah.
AI industry is, right now I would say Trumpism, MAGA, and the oligarchs have been cornered into two myths. One is the Red Scare, and the other one is the inevitability of AI. Okay?
Yeah.
And these two myths are not working. People are
No.
not believing in the Red Scare. Communism is nothing to be
Well, I
worried about.
certainly hope not.
Say
That's
again.
so ridiculous. Go ahead.
The Red Scare is not working, so it's a myth that is not gaining them votes. And the inevitability of AI is not working because they are extending the projections. Now they're saying that AI will be good business, but in 2030. And therefore, they need more and more investment. They need a couple of $1 trillion for the next 8 years before they can make a profit. And the people who have the money, who in the end are the banks, are beginning to pull off. They're beginning to say, well, let's there's a new myth now growing, which is slow AI, which is like slowing it a little bit. Let's not go so fast. And the inevitability of the AI race is being destroyed by the Chinese. The AI race is already lost. The Chinese have already won it, and everyone sort of understands it somehow. Because American AI is too expensive compared to Chinese AI.
I guess what I would really love is we stop using intelligence for it and just look at it for what it is, which is information processing.
It is kind of funny that the crisis of the Republican Party and the crisis of the tech oligarchs is sort of beginning to match. It's all converging into the midterm elections.
We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful that your vision is correct and that the virtuous among us, for lack of a better term, get the upper hand and start calling the shots and cleaning up the damage done over the past couple of years. But I tell you, there's been a lot of damage done, and in fact, it was possible for it to be done. Just boggles my mind. Like the moment in which he put his name on the Kennedy Center, that had to be like the I don't know. That was the line being crossed for me that I just thought would never be crossed.
Today you're being very skeptical and very pessimistic. Huh? This is uncommon of you.
Well, I'm not so pessimistic as I'm just saying that the people who are in political power are corporatists, all of them, without exception.
Not
And
all of
none have
not all of
actually.
them.
They have a pretense of a moral compass, but if you get right down to it, ain't got none. That's my thesis. I could be wrong. I hope I am, but definitely have that feeling that there is very little morality in my species. That they're opportunistic, dangerous critters. You follow? They're likely to take advantage wherever they see it.
Well, yeah, the data centers are becoming a huge issue for the campaign. And a
Okay.
lot of people are deciding their vote as to what are the politicians going to do with the data centers. And that's a very concrete thing.
Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I will
Oh, come on, man.
I would be happy to eat my
Come on,
words.
man. You push me into theories and scenarios and hypotheses, and all you reply is, "We'll see what happens."
Well, of course we will. It's obvious that we will see what happens, isn't it? And it's very easy to say. So I will account myself a little lazy in having used that articulation. But the fact is that we can have all the theories and all the kinds of thoughts about these things. I do not believe, for instance, that there are those ethical, moral, high ground people out there who will not be swayed by the almighty dollar, who will not be owned by corporatist interests, and will not betray their constituency once they have the votes they need to stay in power. And they'll like the power once they have it too. And it's corrupts. Power corrupts. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope there are virtuous people out there. I've been disappointed in just about everybody that I've ever backed. And I had backed some people during the run up between 2016 and here. I definitely was a Bernie crowd initially. I'm not now. Not a fan. Um, I think all of them basically been co opted, the way I feel. And they're performing. They're performing in ways that have some people buying into their performance, but I'm not taken in. I don't believe any of it. So I'm very skeptical. And I try to keep myself in a maybe state where I could be wrong. And I'd like to be proven wrong. But until I see it, I won't believe it. And even when I see it, I might not believe it. You know what I mean? Belief is hard for me.
I mean, you're so skeptical today. This is so contrasting to the podcast that we had with Sue Cawthorn some hours ago. You were totally different.
I don't know if I'm totally different or not. Because when it comes down to unity, I do see through things that we're all basically manifestations of the one, and all of us have light and dark. And the dark is the part that I think is most prevalent right now in our makeup, and the push of the light back to it. I get that through music, art, literature. And I have the idea that that will carry through because when I look historically, the things we remember are Beethoven, Mozart, um, Shakespeare. Let's go on back and go into Diogenes and, you know, looking for an honest man, right? Was that Diogenes? You would
Which
know.
which Diogenes? There's three Diogenes. Which one?
Wasn't there one who was looking for an honest man? Who was that? He had a lantern. He'd go around with a lantern looking for an honest man.
The one that lived in a barrel and made fun of Alexander Magnus.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Diogenes of Sinope.
Ah, yeah. Love that guy.
Yeah, the founder of cynicism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're being a little bit cynical today. Yeah, that's the word.
Well, I think I am that way all the time. I mean, when it comes to Mayor Baba, I'm not certain. I'm not a. I love what he has to say, but whether he was the avatar of the age or not, I mean, come on. Really? Maybe. Who knows? I'm willing to entertain the idea that it might be a possibility. And I love what he has to say. Don't worry, be happy. So, yeah, this is all dance. I was talking about the ecstasy of being in my writing this morning, which is the Joseph Campbell thing, you know, that he did. Well, he didn't do it, but it was put together posthumously. One of his most, I don't know if it's his, how many of the publications have come out of the Joseph Campbell Foundation? I don't know. But you know the one I mean, Ecstasy of Being,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the origin
about
of myths.
myth and the dance.
The origin
Yeah.
of myths. Yes.
And dance and rhythm. And, you know, Joseph Campbell attended a Grateful Dead concert in like 1987. And Phil and Jerry were at a party, dinner party with him after that, or before, I forget. But I forget whose house it was, but it doesn't matter. Phil Lesh came up with his copy of the Skeleton Key to Finnegan's Wake to get it autographed. Geeking out. I love that. I never read that or Finnegan's Wake either, for that matter. I have a copy somewhere. I had to
As,
dig it out.
as usual, you overwhelm me with your references.
I love Finnegan's Wake idea though, and the fact that quarks came out of it. So much came out of it.
Okay, but bringing this back to the conversation of what you want, you have to desire, or what goes around comes around, or you have to think positive so that things happen, so that the supermajority arrives, so that the politicians are not so committed to money, so,
That'd be
so,
lovely.
so that we bring back into common sense the empire of human rights and all that. We have to want it. If we don't want it, it will never come.
You think you can get things by wanting them? That's interesting. I think there's a lot to explore there.
I mean that's the essence of magic, and that's the essence also of any kind of spiritual approach to all this that we're talking. That's why
Desire.
that's why I mentioned as a second thesis the subject of fatigue. I think fatigue is very important. Like I
Wear
really
us down.
I really want to be back in an atmosphere where if I want to do a project, I have a possibility to do the project. And therefore I want to vote for people that will enhance this, and I will want to vote out people that do not allow this.
What's your project?
What is my personal project?
Yeah, what is your project that you want to have?
I'm too old to have a project now.
Oh no. Too old. My God, you're only 53.
For the moment I am I am trying to which is happening now in this little podcast that you improvised. I I have already lived a lot in life, and I have already studied a lot in life, and I have already seen many different political processes in life. I had the luck to be under the Pinochet dictatorship, and I have also visited the States, and I was in the Netherlands when Pim Fortuyn was shot, and I was there when the wall in Berlin came down. So I have already been a witness of very interesting historical moments, and my contribution is probably trying to articulate all this into writing or into some kind of reflection for the future. I would like to write. I think I would like to write science fiction.
I like that.
I would like to write science fiction. Do you know? Now I'm gonna overflow you with
Please.
Do you know the recently deceased science fiction writer Ursula Le Guin?
Yeah, sure.
Ursula Le Guin, I find her fantastic, total, and also I also like a lot Margaret Atwood.
Yes, I love her. I've actually seen her in live in person.
I mean, I think, for example, that the fact that Margaret Atwood wrote *The Handmaid's Tale* and then the TV series was done, it was very fortunate that happened, because I think that the book and the series prevented something very fascistic about the rights of women. In some way, her artistic work defended the rights of women, and she was how do you say, clairvoyant about it. So
well,
I
she
think
did point out when I was in with her and the actress who played in that. Her name escapes me now, but you probably know the one. But I was in a Smithsonian Resident Associates gathering with her and her, the actress. And she said, this was not supposed to be, when I wrote Handmaid's Tale, a direction for how the future should be. Because she felt it was really unfolding as they were making that series.
Yeah. She was at the same time astonished, worried, but happy.
And it was nice to see her in person that one time, because I've read her quite a bit. I started with Surfacing back when I was in an undergraduate course in literary criticism. We read Surfacing as part of that course. Do you know the one, Surfacing? It's an early novel of hers. It was very interesting anyway. Dealt with abortion, all kinds of issues, female issues that I would not have been encountering otherwise, except through reading that piece of literature. And so many others have come across. And she did a lot of good science fiction writing too. I guess that's where you were hitting from Margaret Atwood's
I think that this is a very very good
Black Adam, right?
a very good moment to write science fiction because we're heading towards a future that is very unstable, and any kind of well articulated idea could be very useful for guidance in this moment of darkness that we are into.
Yeah,
Now,
I've got my copy of Neuromancer in my
William,
hand.
William Gibson.
He sees the future. I don't think there's much doubt about that. Oops, sorry. My
I
camera's
am
all over the
I am
place.
I am currently studying a very unknown, although not so unknown, science fiction writer who also died, a black woman called Octavia Butler.
I know of her. Yeah, that name's familiar to me.
Yeah, her Parable series, the Parable of the Sower, and she's a very interesting writer. You would never think that it's science fiction, but it is science fiction.
There's another one besides Parable of the Sower. What else has she written? Do you know?
Parable of the Talents.
And is there anything else? Because there's something else that's
Uh,
wants to come forward in my mind but won't come.
no.
I'll have to look her up.
No,
But
remember, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. This is the two-part series.
okay.
There's
That's
a,
a
there's
good.
a very good, she gave an interview. Do you know the program Democracy Now with Amy Goodman?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I don't listen to it very often because I find Amy Goodman's kind of difficult.
Okay. Anyway, Octavia Butler gave her last interview to Amy Goodman just days before dying, and the interview is very good.
I'll have to check it out then.
Hmm.
If I could survive Amy. I do like her Democracy Now! Broadcast, so I think that's an important piece of journalism happening, and that everyone should tune in if they can to different voices besides the ones they tend to hear on the media. And we are the media in Substack in a way. Well, I've got to go and pick up Len not too shortly, so I probably should get some rest. But thanks, Bruno, for entertaining me along this walk and then the talk since. It's much
This,
longer than we expected, right?
this is the longest podcast I participated in. We're reaching 3 hours. I am amazed that we have 30, we have 13 people and nobody says anything. I
Well,
find
I did say something. I mean, there was this long thing from Nate, the blind stonecutter, said, "Hey guys, just wanted to pop in and say hi. I'm right in the middle of making some breakfast. I'll watch
Nate,
this on recap." Well, good for you if you watch it on recap because it's a lot. But we'll wrap it up here, Bruno. Thanks again. I'll talk to you on Thursday. I guess I'm setting it up, right?
yes, you're
Doing
setting it
that.
up.
I have to do that. Okay, will
And
do.
yeah, the Neuromancer novel is going to be a very good source because we're going to talk about simulation and simulacra, and the simulation is church.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably hang in the back if I can.
All
Talk
right.
to you.
Goodbye
Bye.
to you, and goodbye to you, and goodbye to all the listeners.
Out here.